I often get asked, what are the best botanicals for a nano aquarium? If you're like me and you live in England, then you are used to very small homes, maybe flats, apartments, terrace houses, that sort of stuff. So we're not used to massive spaces within our homes, especially to have big, huge aquariums. So we tend, especially in the UK, Europe, have the smaller nano aquariums. And obviously many of us like to create a more natural habitat for our fish. And this is where botanicals come into it. Things like leaves, seed pods, cones, various other bits and pieces. We would like to use them in our aquariums. But what works in an aquarium, especially if you want one that's very small? For me personally, I tend to err along the lines of using minimal but large botanicals. For example, a huge seed pod and a few smaller seed pods for sort of contrast, and then maybe one or two leaves. The trouble with leaves are they're generally quite big, so if you put them in small tanks, they tend to look absolutely massive in the setup. Now, they're all right if they're kind of on the bed, but if you're having them floating around, they can kind of take away that scale from your tank and make it look like you've just got a large item in a very small environment. There is smaller leaves. You can get nano leaves, something like the Nano Catappa leaf, which is a tiny little leaf. It's very similar to the huge Catappa leaves that you get, or Indian almond leaves, but they do have a nano variety of that, which is really helpful if you want to create a sort of a smaller leaf bed. And there are smaller leaves such as guava leaves and oak leaves, for example. You can get oak leaves, very nano ones, or you can get very large ones. So they're another great one to use in your fish tank. One of my all-time favorite botanicals to use, especially in nano aquariums, is the Soraka Pod. Now, this is a flowery sort of pod that comes from a big plant, and oh my god, they look amazing, especially when they're put underwater. They kind of look like a giant mouth, which is really cool. Or you can use nut pods, which are really cool as well. So a lot of the outer shells of some of the big nuts that you get, say Brazil nuts, walnuts, those type of things, they've got some really cool outer shells. But only some of them that you can obviously use in your fish tanks. There's some just really great ones, and if you've got a large scale pod like that, it looks absolutely awesome in contrast with the rest of your aquarium. There is also some tiny nano pods as well, because pods obviously be very big and also very small. So there's some really cool ones, like you've got your alder cones, your casaruna cones, your baytail nut cones that are just quite small, on the smaller size. They look really good, especially if you're trying to create that sort of scape that you're going for. Using small branched woods can be really cool as well. So if you've got like bonsai wood, redmore root wood, something like that, or even alder tree branches, many other branches that you can use. Them ones specifically have a really small branch that you can use. The sort of the parts, especially to the alder cone, where the cones actually grow from, the twigs tend to be quite tiny there. So they're really good ones to use, especially if you create in that sort of that natural bed that you want as well. If you're enjoying what you see, make sure you hit that thumbs up and let me know what you think in the comments below. Right, let's get back to the video. Ultimately, it's all down to you and personal preference. It depends if you're going over a sort of visual representation, more of a aesthetic design for your fish tank to have in your home to show off, or if you're looking for a natural setup. And if you are, then you tend to be like me and just chuck it all in and just sort of see wherever it lands. And I'm not too fussed about like scale and all that sort of stuff. I've got one or two which I've done that sort of intentionally, and it's worked really well, like my shallow aquarium that I've got, and I've got a Ember Tetra one, which is really cool, and they have that sort of contrast and look a little bit more. And I've also got a Orange Sakura shrimp tank, which has also got a few pods that are quite large compared to the size of the tank, so it does work really well, and they do look absolutely awesome. Ultimately, it's down to the benefit for the animals themselves. Having botanicals or leaves or pods, whatever, are an absolutely fantastic thing to have in your aquarium. They generate biofilms, which are a natural food source, or funguses. They help encourage that ecosystem that you want to create within your aquarium. So you've got all the microorganisms that are in there being able to feed off something. It's also a natural way to reduce the pH levels in your fish tank and the water quality there. There's also many health benefits in what the leaves, especially if they're fruit leaves, can produce, and there's a lot of health benefits to them, such as antibacterial properties. So they're really great products to have in your fish tank. So if you like this video, make sure you check out my playlist on setting up a blackwater aquarium right here. I've got lots of information for you and hopefully some top tips there from myself. And until next time, you stay safe.